In this module we will look at what the actual process will be like on the day. The appeal is normally quite formal and should follow a strict process. If it's starting to get off track, the chair should redirect people to get them back in line. Don't jump the gun. You will have plenty of time to put your case and ask necessary questions. During the time others are presenting, make notes so that you can come back to any points they raised. Chapter 1. First things first. When you first arrive, you should be met outside the hearing room, and when it is time everyone goes in together. The panel cannot be alone with any one of the parties involved. Get settled, get your papers ready. If you have made notes, set them out so you can easily find them. If you are not ready, say so. Don't let them rush you. The chair will likely welcome you to the appeal. They should reiterate that the panel is independent from the authority. They will check you have received all the relevant papers. Confirm that the panel have read all the papers presented. They will confirm the timings of the decision. This is normally done within 5 working days of the appeal. Ensure that you have understood everything, and are given the chance to ask questions if you do not. Chapter 2. Introductions. Each member of the panel should be introduced. The clerk and the representing authority should also introduce themselves. The chair will also likely check who you are. They may be hearing many appeals in the same day, and they should check they have the correct paperwork for your case. Chapter 3. The order of the proceedings. There is no set order, however the code does give a suggestion which most appeals will follow. The clerk must notify the parties of the order of the proceedings in advance of the hearing. First will be the case for the admission authority. In other words, the authority representative will give the reasons why they are not able to give your child a place. Their case will likely take the form of a pre-prepared statement that goes over the details that are in the paperwork that you should have already received. Questioning by the appellant and then the panel. You will be given the opportunity to ask questions about the authority's case. You should be ready with a list of questions based on your research and the case they put forward. The appeals panel members will also have some questions. Case for the appellant. This is your opportunity to give your case as to why you believe that you should get a place. You should only bring up things that are relevant and that the panel are able to consider. Questioning by the admission authority and panel. After you have put your case, the authority and the panel can also question you about your statements. Again, you should be prepared for these questions and try to anticipate what they may ask and how you are going to answer. Summing up by the admission authority. The representative will summarize their case briefly. Summing up by the appellant. You have the chance to summarize your case, but you don't have to if you don't want. The chair should also explain the decision-making process dependent on what type of appeal you are making. For infant class size, the panel can only uphold an appeal where the admission of additional children would not breach the infant class size limit, or the admission arrangements did not comply with admissions law or were not correctly and impartially applied, and the child would have been offered a place if the arrangements had complied or had been correctly and impartially applied. Or the decision to refuse admission was not one which a reasonable admission authority would make in the circumstances of the case. Reasonableness has a legal definition. That is, the decision to refuse to admit the child was a decision which is so outrageous in its defiance of logic or accepted moral standards that no sensible person who had applied his mind to the question could have arrived at it. Or for non-infant class size. This is a 2-stage process. At the first stage, the panel considers whether the school's published admission arrangements complied with the mandatory requirements of the School Admissions Code and Part 3 of the School Standards and Framework Act 1998, and that these arrangements were correctly and impartially applied in your case. It then will decide if the admission of additional children to the school would prejudice the provision of efficient education or the efficient use of resources. If the panel agree this is the case, it moves on to stage 2. The balancing process, where the panel looks at your reasons for wanting your child to go to this school and weigh this up against the prejudice to the school. More on both these decision-making processes in future modules. A quick note about timescales that the appeals must follow. These are set out in the documents mentioned in Module 1. If the timetable is not followed, you should bring this up at the appeal. Note that sixth form dates are slightly different. In the next module, Part 4, we will explain in more detail about the different types of appeal.